everybody, sorry for the long pause in the bus videos. I just got so doggone busy doing bus things, I didn't want to stop and get the camera out. So here we are in the studio, and I thought I would give you a catch up on at least one topic today, and that's the heater, the student heater. I had a couple of people ask me, whatever happened with the student heater? Because I had a video where I was doing investigations of how to get the heater out of the bus. And the heater, if you remember, runs off of the engine's coolant system, just like the heater in the dashboard of your vehicle. And it's part of a big circulation of antifreeze that goes around the engine, goes to the heaters and back to the engine and the radiator and all that. So I don't have a specific video of the removal of the student heater, but I'm going to talk about it today so you get an idea. This will be a shorter video, but hopefully very useful. I do want to give you a couple of reminders about what you're dealing with when you're dealing with automotive antifreeze. And the first thing is that stuff is poisonous. I mean, it can kill people, it can kill animals. It's not good stuff to leave laying around. So if you're working on a heater like this, I can guarantee you're going to spill some. Get it cleaned up. The stuff is nasty. Not only that, it has a real sweet smell and a sweet taste that will draw children and animals to go lap it up. So don't leave that around. If you're going to be doing this kind of work, make sure you clean it up. Secondly, if the if the engine in the vehicle has been running at all, don't do this work. Wait. I recommend at least overnight. When the engine's been running, that coolant that's running through those hoses gets so hot it can easily scald you, and the system gets pressurized. So it's a bad place to be. Don't mess with it if the engine's not, if you can't put your hand up against the engine for a while and it doesn't feel warm, make sure it's nice and cool. There you go. As far as the video for taking it out, the reason there's not a video, there was no space. There was no space. And part of the reason is when you take the student heater out of the bus, you need at least 2 people in order to wrangle the hoses, especially when you start cutting things, because somebody's going to have to stick their finger in the hose in order to keep it from spraying everywhere. And then you end up with the 2 plugs with the hose adapter for the bypass and the 2 hoses from the heater assembly, and there just isn't any room to get a camera in there without having at least 3 people, with one of them just to run the camera. So that was a thing. No room. When it came time to disconnect the hoses from the heater itself, they were stuck on there. 7 years of Pacific Northwest heating up the bus for kiddos, and those hoses weren't coming off, so we had to cut them off. And of course that meant stuff was spraying everywhere. Even though the system was nice and cold, gravity just did its thing. And I was sticking my fingers in the holes, and the guy who was helping me out, it's like grabbing stuff, and we're all trying to do this as well as we can, but we did make a mess, and I did clean it up. When you start to look at how you're going to put the thing together, think about your clamps. Do you have the right clamps available? And when you cut the hose, you're going to want to have to slip one clamp onto the heater hose, because when the bypass goes on, then you'll want to bring that clamp back up and put it around the edge of the bypass. And if you haven't put the clamp on the hose first, you're going to have to pull the bypass back off again. And you don't want to do that. That's just a pain. We didn't do that. We actually remembered to put the clamps onto the hoses. So it worked out okay. But I could totally see where that could be a challenge. We did find this was a lot easier to do because we had just taken out the floor of the bus. Because the heater hoses go underneath the floor, and we actually cut all around the heater and then cut where the hoses were very carefully so we could take the floor out and get to those hoses. So if you have an order of precedence and you're working on your bus or trailer, van, or whatever it is, think about if the floor is out, that might be a good time to do that work, because otherwise you're going to have to do it underneath the vehicle, and you're going to have that stuff spraying all over this Oh, that would be awful. Because again, it's poisonous. You don't want that like getting in your eyes or anywhere. So that's the thing. So what's coming up next for videos? Well, the floor is out. I owe you a video of that. I've taken all the old rusty screws out. We're in the process of grinding the floor, the steel mesh that makes up the framework. We're working on getting that cleaned up. Once that's clean, I will cover it with a paint called Chassis Saver, and that should keep all those areas where we've been grinding from starting to rust, which would be great. And is our prep step before we start actually thinking about putting a new floor in. And that's going to be a big process. So that's coming up. The student doors are out. I'll try to get you a picture of that. So the student doors have been pulled out of the bus, and we're going to replace it with, well, I'll have to show you later. Big excitement. I have started removing the windows from the bus. And there's going to be a big philosophical discussion about why in the world would you take the windows out of the school bus? It's not a school bus anymore. Well, we'll talk about that in another video and the practicality around the standard school bus windows. We'll have a video coming up about 300 pounds of electrical. Yep, the electrical system has arrived, most of it. Solar panels are still on the way. But a lot of the rest of the electrical system is here, and yeah, it's 300 pounds. So that'll be a thing. And like I said, the floor is coming up, and that's going to be a big deal. It's multiple layers. We're going to be really careful about it because everything else builds on that. So that's going to be fun and challenging. We'll probably learn a few things. So that's a quick catch up on what happened with the heater and why there's no video. If you're building your own bus or van or trailer or whatever, I hope you are encouraged by the progress that I'm making on mine. And if you have ideas, make sure you put them in the comments. And I'm looking forward to seeing you next time. Thanks. All right. So where's the thingy? Stop this thingy.